Most people will never notice this about themselves, that they'll go through life thinking they're too sensitive, too quiet, or too complicated, without realizing their mind may actually process the world differently from everyone around them. Because some people don't just hear conversations, they analyze the pauses between words. Some people don't just enter a room, they absorb every emotion inside it. And if you relate to these signs, your brain may be wired in a way most people will never fully understand. Not better, not worse, just different. The strange part is, people with minds like this usually spend years trying to look normal, trying to fit into systems that were never built for the way they think. And this is where things get strange. The signs are often invisible from the outside, but internally, they shape your entire emotional world. Watch until the end, because the last sign is the one most people silently struggle with. And once you recognize it, you may never see yourself the same way again. Sign number 1, you replay conversations in your head for hours. You walk away from a simple interaction, and somehow your brain refuses to let it go. You replay the exact words, the tone, the facial expression, that tiny pause before they answered. And hours later, you're still analyzing it like your mind is searching for something hidden underneath the surface. Most people assume this is just overthinking, but psychologically, it often comes from a brain that processes social experiences deeply instead of quickly. Your mind doesn't just record conversations, it dissects them. You notice emotional details other people ignore. Maybe someone said, "I'm fine," but your brain caught the tension in their voice. Maybe a friend laughed, but something about it felt forced. So, while everyone else moves on, your brain keeps investigating. And honestly, it can feel exhausting, especially at night. You lie in bed, replaying moments that everyone else probably forgot 5 minutes later. But the deeper reason is darker than most people realize. People who do this are often highly emotionally aware, which means their brain is constantly trying to predict emotional outcomes before they happen again. It becomes a survival pattern. And once you notice this about yourself, another sign usually starts making sense too. Sign number 2. You feel mentally exhausted after socializing. Have you ever spent time with people you actually like and still felt completely drained afterward? Not physically tired, mentally empty. Like your brain ran a marathon nobody else noticed. This confuses a lot of people because you can laugh, smile, hold conversations, even seem outgoing, while internally, your mind is processing everything at full speed. The energy in the room, the reactions, the emotional shifts, the pressure to respond correctly. For some minds, socializing isn't passive, it's intense psychological multitasking. You may even notice this after crowded events. Everyone else seems energized, but you get home, sit in silence, and feel this overwhelming need to disappear for a while. And this is where people misunderstand you. They think you're antisocial, cold, detached. But often you're simply overstimulated. Your brain absorbs more information than it can comfortably carry. It's why small talk feels strangely exhausting, why loud environments feel mentally heavy, why being on for too long starts to feel emotionally painful. And the strange thing is, people with minds like this usually crave connection deeply. They just need recovery afterward. But there's another sign that reveals how differently your brain notices the world. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sign number 3. You notice tiny changes in people. Instantly, someone changes their tone slightly, and you catch it immediately. A friend becomes quieter than usual. Someone avoids eye contact for half a second. A message feels colder than normal. And somehow, your brain notices all of it before anyone says a word. Most people overlook subtle emotional shifts, but your mind automatically scans for them. Not because you're dramatic, but because your awareness operates on a deep emotional frequency. You read patterns. Sometimes this makes you incredibly understanding. You can sense when someone is hurting, even when they pretend they're okay. You notice tension before arguments happen. You feel emotional distance before relationships fall apart. But this ability has a darker side too. Because when your brain constantly detects changes, it also struggles to ignore them. A simple shift in someone's energy can stay in your head for days. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me? Did something change between us? And this creates an emotional weight most people never talk about. Because being deeply observant sounds powerful, until you realize how hard it becomes to stop noticing everything. And eventually your brain starts craving one thing more than anything else: silence. Sign number 4. You need isolation to emotionally reset. Sometimes you disappear without explaining why. Not because you hate people, but because your mind becomes too loud, too full, too emotionally crowded. And isolation becomes the only place where your thoughts finally slow down. This is something many emotionally intense people secretly experience. After too much stimulation, too many conversations, too much emotional input, your brain reaches a point where it can't process anymore. So you retreat. Maybe you sit alone in your room, drive without music, ignore notifications for hours. And during those moments, something strange happens. You finally feel like yourself again, because isolation, for certain minds, isn't loneliness. It's recovery. It's the emotional equivalent of taking a deep breath after being underwater too long. But the problem is, people often misunderstand this need. They think you're avoiding them, that you're becoming distant, that something is wrong. So you start hiding this part of yourself. You pretend you're fine socially while secretly craving space just to feel emotionally balanced again. And eventually, this leads to the final sign, the one many people carry silently for years. Sign number 5. You constantly feel different from everyone else. Not superior, not inferior, just different. Like everyone else received instructions for life that you somehow missed. You can be surrounded by people and still feel emotionally separate from them. You observe conversations more than fully participate in them. You think deeply about things others dismiss quickly. You feel emotions intensely, but struggle to explain them out loud. And over time, this creates a strange loneliness. Because when your inner world becomes too complex to describe, you stop trying to explain it. So you stay quiet. You adapt. Blend in. Smile at the right moments. But internally, there's always this feeling that your brain experiences reality differently from the people around you, and this feeling often begins early in life. Maybe you were called too sensitive, too quiet, too emotional, too deep. But the truth is, some minds naturally process life with more emotional intensity, deeper reflection, and stronger awareness than others. And while that can feel isolating, it also means you experience beauty, meaning, connection, and emotion in ways many people never fully do. That's the hidden side nobody talks about. The same mind that makes you feel different also allows you to see the world differently. And maybe that difference was never something to erase. Maybe it was something to understand, because the people who feel the deepest often notice truths the rest of the world moves too fast to see. So, if you related to these signs, you're not alone. There are millions of people silently experiencing the exact same internal world, wondering why they've always felt slightly out of sync with everyone else. Which sign felt the most personal to you? Write it in the comments, and subscribe for more psychology videos that explain the hidden patterns of human behavior. Because sometimes understanding your mind changes the way you understand your entire life.